Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are starting again an exciting new series about Docker Hub, how to run our first container, manage container lifecycle, Docker important commands, and summary. What is Docker Hub? Before we jump into running a container, let me introduce you in Docker Hub. I open my browser and search for Docker Hub. This is the official website for Docker Hub. Let me introduce you to Docker Hub. Think of Docker Hub as an app store, but for Docker images. It's where you can find pre-built images for popular applications like we have Nginx, BusyBox, Alpine, Memcache, PostgreSQL for databases, MySQL, Mongo databases, Grafana for monitoring, Ubuntu, and more. These images are like template for creating container. You can pull these images, you can download these images and make a new container and run the service on your Docker container. Now let's log into our Ubuntu server that we have installed earlier. In my server, I have internet connectivity and we installed Docker earlier, Docker-version. We installed Docker successfully. Now how to manage our Docker. Now how we run our first container. Docker run -d-p 8080:80 Nginx. It means Docker run we pull an image of Nginx from Docker Hub and create the container and start the series of Nginx. -d, it means run this command for me on detached mode on the background. -p, assign a port number. All the containers that are running on our Docker, they should have a port number and each service should have a different port number. You cannot assign one port number on two Docker container. We will assign port 8080 to port 80 of Nginx. We will map port 8080 to port 80 of Nginx. What is Nginx? The Nginx is the image that we use in our container. Now we will go on with Docker essential commands. We have Docker Hub. Docker Hub, as we said, is like an app store for pre-built images. We run the command docker run to download a new container and start and create the container and start the service of that container. Now let's run docker run. For example, we want to install Nginx. We will start by docker run Nginx. We will install the service of Nginx. How to create this? Docker pull Nginx, but we said docker run Nginx. Docker pull, it means download the image of Nginx for me, but do not create the container and do not start the container. But docker run command, it means also download, also create, and also start the container. We will say docker run on the background, assign a port number 8080 and map to the port 80 of Nginx. Nginx is the service that we want to install on our Docker as a container. Sorry, permission denied. Assign sudo password. Just wait for a moment. This will search locally. If the image of Nginx is located on our server, it will not pull the image and use the image that is located on our local server. But in here, the service of Nginx is not on our local machine. This will download the service. The Nginx successfully downloaded from a Docker Hub repository and created a new container and also started the service. How to find that this container is running? In here we have a command docker ps. It means show all the running containers on our system. Docker ps-a show all the containers which are running and which are stopped. But docker ps show all the running containers, not stopped containers and not the containers that are exited, just running containers. But docker ps also show running containers, stopped containers and exited containers. Let's have it. Docker ps. Docker ps show all the running container. We have container ID. The image is Nginx. This is the common we created a minute ago, and the status is up and running. The port is the local IP address, which port is 8080 and assigned to port 80 of Nginx service. File name is this. Docker ps show all our running container. What is docker ps-a? Docker ps-a show also the running containers and the stopped containers. We do not have any stopped container or exited container. Just we have one container which is Nginx and this is running. We have Docker images. Show all the images that we downloaded on our local machine. Docker version show the version of our Docker. Docker info show all the informations about our Docker. Let's have it. We have Docker images. We have downloaded Alpine. This is the image, and we have downloaded the Nginx. Alpine is just pulled from Docker repository. It's not a container, just its image that downloaded. What is a container? Container is the running instance of an image. Just Nginx is running. We have tag is the latest version, and we have image ID. We downloaded 2 weeks ago. We have Docker -version. Show the version of our Docker. We have Docker info. Docker info show all the informations about Docker. Show the version, the context, the debug mode, and what are the plugins, what are the paths, the server, which the containers that are running. We have Nginx that are running. We have 0 paused container. We didn't pause any container, and we do not have any stopped container. We have 2 images. We have Nginx and Alpine. The server version, all the details about your Docker container show with Docker info. We have our container lifecycle. Managing the container lifecycle. Running containers is fun, but managing them is equally important. Let's take a look at the container lifecycle. We can create a container, also start the container. We can pause a container and again unpause the container that we paused. We can stop a container and again start that container. Also, when you created a container, you can delete the container. Also, you can delete the stopped container. Which are the commands? We have Docker pull. Docker pull, it means just download the image for me. Do not make any container and do not start the service. Docker unpause. Docker unpause will unpause a container which is paused. Docker stop. It means we have multiple services. We want to stop the service of Nginx or another containers. We have Docker start. You can start an stopped or exited container by Docker start. Also, you can restart a container by the commands docker restart. Also, you can pause a container. You can pause it and again unpause it. Let's have these commands. This is a Docker Hub repository. We can pull these images, but we will not create any container. For example, we need Grafana. Grafana is a tool that monitors all the containers. Docker pull Grafana. Let's copy the command and paste in here. The Grafana image downloaded successfully. We had a command docker ps. Just we have nginx which is running. Docker ps-a. All the containers that are running and that are stopped. And we have docker images. Docker image. Now we have Alpine, Grafana, and Nginx. We have 3 images, but 1 running container. We have docker stop. Docker stop, it means stop a container. First, let's have the running containers. Docker stop, we have just Nginx which is running. This is the container that is running. You can copy the ID or the name and paste in here. We will stop the Nginx service. Now the Nginx service is stopped. Docker ps. There is no running container, but docker ps-a show the containers which are stopped and exited and running. We have Nginx which is exited 9 seconds ago. Now you can start a container. First, let's have docker ps-a. These are the containers that are stopped. Docker start. Let's have the name or container ID. Now the service of Nginx is running. Docker ps show all the running container. This is a running container which is the uptime is 4 seconds ago. You can start. Also, you can restart a running container. Let's have docker restart Nginx. Now you restarted Nginx successfully. Also, you can pause a container. Docker pause. Now the docker is paused. Docker ps. The status is paused. It's not running. You can also unpause. Docker unpause Nginx. Copy the container ID and paste in here. Now docker ps. The status is up and running. Ubuntu server has an IP address. Let's find it. This is the either IP address which is 234. You can access the service of Nginx. The port we assigned is a TAT. Now this port of Nginx will map to port 80 of our Docker container. We started our Nginx successfully. We have Docker RM. Docker RM will delete a stop container. Docker RMI. Docker RMI will remove the image from your local repository. Docker RM, it means you delete the container but not the image. Docker RMI, it means you delete the image also. You have docker exec. Docker exec, it means execute a command inside of your container. You have docker build. Docker build, we will go on with docker build and docker exec also. Docker build, it means create your own docker file to an image and make the container for you. Every time you can pull your own container from Docker Hub repository and use that one. Let's have it. Docker RM. We have Nginx first, Docker PS, Docker RM. You can delete the container. You cannot remove a running container. First, you have to stop it. Docker stop Nginx. Now the container is stopped. Right now, Docker PS, you do not have any running container. Docker PS-A, you have an exited container. Now you can delete this one. Docker RM, this container. Now you do not have any stopped or exited container also. Docker PS, you do not have any running container. Docker PS-A. You do not have any container that is running, stopped or exited. But you have Docker images. You didn't delete the image of that one, just you deleted the service. By Docker RMI Nginx, you will delete the image also. Now in here you do not have the Nginx on your system. With Docker build and Docker exec, we will go on the next lecture. Let's continue. We have Docker volume. Docker volume will list all the drives and volumes on our containers. Docker network ls show the containers on our Docker. All the containers are connected via local IP address to the Docker. Docker log container ID show the log of a specific container. And you have Docker compose. This is an important section. We will go on with Docker compose on the next lecture. Let's have it. We have Docker volume ls. We do not have any volume in here. We have Docker network ls. ls. These are the containers that are connected with each other via network. In this video, we pulled our first Docker image from Docker Hub, ran the series of Nginx, and explored the container lifecycle. I hope this gave you a solid understanding of how Docker container work. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated.